Tonight, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to give you our top 5 tips to using a clinical skills log, and I'm going to tell you some of the history to what happened historically, why it came about, and also what the plans are for the future, more importantly. So my name is Andrew Ormerod. I am the creator of CPDme. I'm very humbled that, again, there's lots of similarities with the clinical skills log and CPDme because both of them were research projects never intended to ever be out there in the public domain. CPDme started back in November 2009, and ironically, a research master's also occurred in November 2015 that gave birth, such to speak, to the clinical skills log. So there is very tangible similarities to them both, and it's quite ironic that I'm involved in both of these. And so, but as I said, they were never intended to come to market, such to speak. All my screen sites are screen-friendly capture, so you are more than welcome to capture them with your mobile phones if you need to. But there's also some QR codes on there that you are more than welcome to capture if you want, and so you can jump on there and you can capture the QR codes. So please feel free to do so. Also, if you're on Twitter, please do follow the Clinical Skills Log. We are very much aware that we've not really updated the Clinical Skills Log Twitter page recently, but we have got an amazing campaign coming because we've got some exciting news at the end of this presentation for those people who are you're going to hopefully download and start using it, but for those people who have been loyal followers since we first started. So we'll be updating that information shortly. So here is a bit of storytelling. So if you are sitting comfortably, I'm going to tell you the history. 2015, I was approached by the Royal Air Force after they'd been using CPDme, and they wanted to look at how they could integrate or identify clinical skills of Royal Air Force military medical personnel. I'm working alongside Teesside, James Cook Hospital and some of the military officers up there. We looked at how we could identify some of these skills and how indeed we could capture them succinctly from people not just practicing military medicine in the UK, but also other places around the world. And that allowed us to capture some of this information. And I wasn't really sure at the time what the ethos of why they wanted to capture it or make all this capturing information simple, but it soon became pretty evident that it wasn't about just capturing the information. It was identifying, more importantly, throughout the research, skills that were not being utilized effectively or that something had gone wrong within the practice. And I thought that was pretty smart because it's not something that I'd considered at the time around the research, and it was something that I didn't realize that actually underpinning the project and the research and the master's degree of such, that's what they wanted to identify was skills that may be being used that people weren't either unconsciously competent or consciously incompetent or consciously competent, as Noel Birch's model from the 1970s on the screen displays. So we're going to get quite interactive now, and I've anonymized these polls, so nobody's going to be judgmental. This is about a safe learning environment where we can be open and honest with each other. But I'm going to ask Dawn if she'll kindly pop up skills poll number 1. And this is asking, have you ever carried out a skill or a procedure where you have not been 100% confident, or you think maybe skill decay might have occurred and you've gone ahead and done that skill anyway? So please just click yes, no, or you choose not to answer, which usually equates to the answer yes. And so please just choose one of those options on screen, and then we'll reveal the results in a second. And be honest, because if everybody chooses no, and then I'll know this is a fraudulent poll.
So just a couple more seconds. So, and it is, isn't it? I know I would answer. So we'll end the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There you go, Andrew. Can you see that?
I can't see the results. I think you need to just display results.
There you go.
Yes, I can. There you go. So we can see outstandingly that the majority of people have done something where they're not 100% confident. And you know what? There's nothing to be embarrassed about, because actually that happens every single day, not just in nursing or paramedicine or working as a doctor or a surgeon or a consultant. It happens all the time because we feel we're very confident and competent at doing things, when in actual fact, when things are outlaid, it quickly identifies that we're not. And CPR ironically, is one of those things. I know there's lots of technology out there that identifies whether we do CPR effectively, but it's only when we get measured, because certainly if, as an ambulance practitioner, you would expect that I would be 110% and be excellent at CPR. When in actual fact, I'll be honest with you, the last time I did my mandatory training, I think I scored about 84%, which I was a little bit embarrassed about. But in actual fact, it just demonstrated that I thought that I was well and truly consciously competent or consciously incompetent, but in actual fact, I had a massive decay in the fact that I wasn't given the right depth, I wasn't at the right speed, and so it wasn't out of the ordinary to identify these skill sets that sometimes people thought they were very confident at, but they weren't. Thanks, Dawn. You can close that poll now for me. So from the 80% that said yes, I'm now going to ask Dawn if she'll pop up poll number 2, which says, did something go wrong? And this poll number 2 is really, really interesting, because this was one of the vital measures of identifying the information which were popped into this skills log. So Dawn, can you pop up poll number 2 for me now, if you can, please? So poll number two is asking, from performing that particular skill like you talked about in the first question, did something go wrong or did any harm occur? And obviously it's completely anonymized this, but it's just about being honest and integral. Did something go wrong, or did luck, Lady Luck was on your side and actually there was no harm occurred? Just answer honest and openly within that scope, and we'll reveal what happened when we did this on a bigger scale. I love the I choose not to answer option.
So quite a few people are still answering. I'll just give them a few more seconds. So we're going to end that poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There we go. And I'll share the results.
And exactly as I expected, because the majority of time, actually, we get it right. So we pull information right from the medulla of our brain where it actually is stored, and we reflect and recall that information. And the majority of times, something does go wrong, but there still is a percentage of times where actually harm does occur or something does go wrong. And it's about negating that and about turning it around. So when we talk about when something did go wrong, it then turns into an element of reflection and rectification, doesn't it? Which then needs to occur. And the reason for that pattern breaking, going back to this Noel Birch's model of unconsciously incompetent, unconsciously competent, consciously competent, and unconsciously incompetent, it's about pattern breaking and ensuring that if you are going to take part in some CPD or some learning, it's because you've identified a skills gap or something that's gone wrong or something where you are not very confident or competent at. Because it's about pattern breaking, and pattern breaking only occurs through either reaction, inaction, distraction, or the wrong action. And I was going to pop them on screen, but I just didn't want to load it all. But pattern breaking for identifying when something goes wrong is either reaction, inaction, distraction, or wrong action. And an example of that, I'll go back to a particular reflective practice piece that I have from 10 years ago, was miscounting controlled drugs. And that was due to distraction, because somebody spoke to me at the time that I was documenting it in the controlled drugs book. And then I put the controlled drugs morphine in the wrong box where diazepam should have been. So distraction was clearly to blame for that. And so it's really, really important that you identify these skill sets. And that's what the skills reflective process wanted to do. It was around identifying skills of practitioners within the RAF that actually they were not very confident and competent at, so that mandatory training and training as such could be specifically identified for their particular skill sets. And thus was born the clinical skills log. And never, as I said, intended to come back to in anger. Yes, you're right. Sometimes being angry is also a reason to blame. But the clinical skills log came to light because of the very kind support of Medtree, who helped us bring it to market and bring it to a civilian audience, because it was never, ever going to get past that research project and that master's dissertation. So why has it lasted so long? Because we haven't updated it since the very first time we launched it. So why is it still about, and why are people still using it? Well, it was designed to be super simple. but intuitive, and it was built on safe and simple and primitive coding. Now, I'm not an expert IT coder, but I know the people who put this together designed it to be quite robust, to work on old phones, to work on new phones, and to be quite simple and intuitive in the way it works, and based upon very simple and equally reliable technology. Now, one of the spikes and the reasons why this got very popular was because of the coroner's ruling around airway management. And at that time, there wasn't any paper airway logs about. People were struggling to keep an accurate record of their airway log. And so people started using the clinical skills log specifically to document their airway skills. And I'll show you how to do that in a second when I jump over onto the live demonstration. But if you haven't downloaded the app, you can scan that QR code now and you can download it. It is completely free of charge, has always been free of charge, and you can grab that from the App Store or just go to the App Store and search for Clinical Skills Log and you'll find it. One of the other reasons for the success is it got some pretty heavy international audiences writing documents on it, putting it in newsletters, putting it in brochures and such. And so it was averaging, and still is averaging, around 100,000 submissions per month. Sometimes it would have up to 10,000 skill submissions per day. But it was ranked number 3 in the global iOS App Store. So across iPhone users, it was ranked number 3, as you can see on screen, in the free medical apps. And again, Apple started to promote it as new releases. And again, that boosted the sales or the downloads of this particular app. EMS World, who are from America, is the largest EMS provider across the United States and such. They were publicizing articles in there. So we had a massive audience from the United States using us, and Canada and on Australia. And then we had lots of UK markets, and Medtree, of course, being the sponsor supporter, very kindly helped promote this across the UK audience. And so it was a really simple, compliant way for people to document their airway and clinical skills, of course. But why had nobody done this before? Why had nobody built a clinical skills log before? Well, simply because of the complexity and the customization ability. Is that even a word? Customization ability? I might have just completely made that up. But it was really complex because we had people who were junior staff nurses who had just qualified using it. We had people who were EMT1s who work in the ambulance service. We had some consultant practitioners who were using it for very advanced airway skills, and we also had some very experienced surgeons using it for other things. So there was lots and lots and lots of elements that people were using it from different skill sets. So it's never ever going to be as simple to build a skills app and a skills dashboard that could be suitable for everybody. And the way we got around that is by creating the clinical skills dashboard, because we created the app and then there was a desperate need to create a dashboard. And that dashboard will allow you to do 2 things. It would allow you to completely customize the entirety of the skill set just for you. But more importantly, you could hide things that weren't relevant, like plaster of Paris, because if you work in an ambulance service, you're not going to be using plaster of Paris. But if you're not, and you certainly, if you're working in a hospital environment, then you probably are. So if you work in an ambulance, you're not going to want to see that skill in your skill sets, in your skills log. And this dashboard gave you the ability to hide that within your individual mobile app. And that's something most mobile apps didn't have the capability to do at the time. And that made it very unique to the clinical skills log that you could do that. Okay, so let's take a peek inside. This is where the technology generally goes completely wrong, but I'm going to try and just escape this, and then we're going to go live to the skills log. So just let me try and share my screen. Okay, just give me a quick yes if you can see my app.
Yep, we can see that perfectly, Andrew.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Ashley, Maldwyn, Daryl, Hannah. Excellent. Okay, so the clinical skills log. I'll show you the app first, and I'll show you what I would do if I was going to document a set of skills, and then I'll show you where we go from there, and I'll go back to my top tips. So this is the app front, and it's really simple. Uber simple to use. In the past 7 days, I can see how many shifts I've logged skills at, and I can see how many individual skills within the 7 days, and then the same for the 30 days and 14 skills. And then I've got two options below. I can start a shift, and what this will do is it allow you to start a shift, so you can do a shift type, and you can completely customize these, and I'll show you how to shortly. So you can click on there whether it's an NHS shift, and then shift hours, which is 12 or 6 hours, whichever, and then you can choose your location, whatever that's going to be, and whether it's a hospital, an ED department. Basically, what that will do is it will open a shift up for you and allow you to document those skills throughout the shift, because it doesn't expect you to do them all at once. You might want to do them at the end or at the beginning, but it'll open that shift up for you. The second option is to add a skill set with a date. And the really useful thing about this is just documenting one skill at a time. So if I wanted to document one skill now, which I will do, I'll show you, I'm going to document it. So this is the date and time. If I need to change it, I click on it and I can change that at the bottom. I can click onto next, and it's going to ask me for an incident number, and I'm just going to put one in there, and I'll just make up 111 22 33 44 5. The call type. So this is historically the old ambulance code set, Cat 1, Cat 2, Cat 3, Cat 4, but you can literally customize any in there. And what I'm going to show you when we go into the edit in a second is how I can change them Cat 1 to Cat 4 to the new code set that aligns to UK ambulance services. But I can change that to whatever I want. The nature of the patient. So there's lots of different categories of patients in here. You have burns, cardiac arrest, maternity, medical, mental health, respiratory arrest, trauma, or other. So I'm going to click on there, cardiac arrest. The form then intuitively changes based upon my selection. And so because I've chosen cardiac arrest, the box now below is going to ask what occurred. So I'm going to click on, there was an asystole, and then we had a pulseless electrical activity, and then we had some mechanical and some manual CPR, and then we had a ROSC, fingers crossed, after a VF. Click on done, and then we can put the age in there. And the advantage of this app is it completely has no patient identifiable information. The only identifiable information will be the incident number. And I'll go back to the airway log in a second and tell you why that's important, or that was one of the requirements from the coroner's ruling, that it was able to be traced back to a specific incident. Then we've got gender. I'm very much aware that we've just got male and female on there, but there is the capability to add all of non-binary and other genders in there that's applicable. So I can show you how to do that. And then we've got patient condition category. And so we've got cardiovascular, ENT, CNS, and we can put as many different categories as we want in there, but these are just the generic ones. So we'll click for cardiovascular. Then we've got care pathway, hospital or pre-hospital, and they're the two that's defined. So if I click on pre-hospital, it's going to give me some options below now, and that's going to either be community pathway, deceased, discharged with no treatment required, force team, GP referral, mental health service, police, treated and discharged on scene, or virtual ward. So we're going to go for, in fact, we'll go for hospital, and we'll say that we transported them to hospital effectively. So we'll take that one off, and we'll put hospital, and we'll take them to the emergency department. So you can see there is lots of capability in there to change lots of different options for your outputs. And one of the things that we're hoping to get from you girls and guys who's joined us tonight is the ability to get some feedback to what you want to see on the reports, because all of these options can create really simple graphical reports that allows you to identify how many people you've taken to hospital, how many people you've sent to a falls team and such. That will help support your learning and development. The next across is catastrophic hemorrhage. So we've tried to make this into this sort of CABC methodology, but you can change it round. So there's no catastrophic hemorrhage involved there, but there's lots of options in there that you can change, and you can also add to, which I'll show you how to do in a second on the dashboard. Then you can go on to airway, and this is what's really useful for the airway log, because you can document your airway skills. So I'm going to click in there, airway assessment, airway maneuvers, Untitled CO2, head tilt chin lift, and that I used Untitled ETI, and then also an NPA, and then I use suction. So lots of airway bits I've put in there that will appear in the airway log and also into your log. Endotracheal intubation without drugs. So I'm going to put, I used a catheter mount, a bougie, a direct laryngoscope, and a filter. I did some pre-oxygenation. It was a grade 2 view. And if there's any free text, I can put it into there, and that will also equally appear on the airway log. I click onto done. Then it's going to ask whether the endotracheal intubation was successful. And this is what was measured when the RAF initially did the skill set. And I'm going to click on there, yes. And then the number of attempts. So this is about being equal, open, and honest. So I'm going to put on there that it was 2 attempts. Then click on to next, and then it's going to go for the breathing assessment. So in the breathing assessment, I can click auscultation, bag valve mask. I can do a chest seal if that's applicable, end-tidal CO2 again, whether there's any nebulization, PEEP, rise and fall assessment, SpO2, whether there's a thoracostomy, whether there was decompression valves or anything else. And I'm going to show you again how you can edit or amend or change that, or even hide them if they're not applicable to you. Click on done. And then next is circulation. So we're going to do 12 lead. We're going to do blood pressure, CPR, central pulse, femoral pulse, fluids, heart sounds, IO and IV. And then we're going to click on there, done. And then it's going to give you lots of other options on there. So IO, it's going to ask where the location was, and we're going to go tibia. IO attempts 1, was it successful? Yes. IO size used was a pink. Fluids was we simply just used normal saline. IV, so we're going to go for antecubital fossa. IV attempts, we're going to go for 2, not 23. Was it successful? No. And IV size used, we're using 18. Then click on next. Then it's going to ask for disability. Some of these might be relative, some of them might not be, but we're going to go for an AFPU and a blood glucose for reversible causes. And then we'll go for a temperature. So we'll go for a tympanic temperature. Click on next. And then this is going to ask other questions that might not specifically be relevant to a cardiac arrest, like pain management. And so if that's not relevant, you can simply just click next and go past. Spinal immobilization, if that's relevant, you can use that. Or if not, you can click next. Splintage, minor injuries, wound care, plaster of Paris, non-technical skills, like whether you were the cardiac arrest team leader, whether you were the cardiac arrest team member, or whether you were something else in there, and whether you used an handover when you got to hospital, and whether other elements were involved. Click on to next, and then you can choose the drugs that you administered, and there's lots of different drugs in there. In fact, there's drugs for all occasions, things that you might use within a pre-hospital setting, things that you might use in a discharge setting. So lots of different medicines in there that you could have used. We'll go for some adrenaline as well. And then this literally gives you a synopsis of that particular incident. And then what you can do then is click on to submit, and that is done. And you can see there that my skill set has now gone up dramatically in the last 7 days. So that's adding the skill set with a particular date. And that's ultimately going to come back to one of my top tips, which I'll show you. Now, on this app, is limited functionality really, because it allows you to do 2 things. It allows you to document the skills, and it allows you to very quickly produce a report. So if I go into the report, I can do 2 things. I can either produce a descriptive report, and that allows me to choose reports on the airway, an ambulance airway log if that's what's required, breathing, catastrophic hemorrhage, disability, of all them things. So I literally just tick what I want to appear, and I just select the date. So I'm going to go back a couple of years. So we'll for example, say that I've been requested by my senior practitioner to produce the airway log. I can produce ambulance airway log from the 17th of June 2018 to the 18th of June 2021, and click on create. And what that will do then is it will produce me a very nice infographic front, and then literally it will produce all of my airway logs underneath that you can see. But you can't see very well on a mobile phone. And also what I will tell you at this point is there is a very slight little glitch since the iOS update, which means it almost looks like you can't do anything with it. But if you actually touch the top right-hand side of the white screen, you can see there that it then gives you the option to print it off or do something. So the button's hidden, and obviously we'll fix that once we do the update, but it's at the top right of the screen. And to go back, you just simply click the top left of the screen and then go back to home. If you want to produce a graphical report, and this is where we're hoping to get some feedback from the people here tonight, then click onto graphical reports. And at the moment, there's just one graphical report on this app, but we have an ideology of around 20 different graphs that we want to be opening up. So I'm going to go there that we're going back to 2016. to the 18th of June 2021, and I'm going to click on create. And what this graphical report is going to do is it's going to give me a list of all my cannulations, a list of all my hospital avoided, how many patients I attended, how many drugs I administered, how many shifts I did over that period of time, taken to hospital, intubation. So it's a pretty much oversight graphical report. But the key thing about this report is it identifies some very key information at the very bottom of it, which again, going back to the reason why the skills log were developed in the first place, was 5 most documented skills within this period. You can see there are airway maneuvers, airway assessment, endotracheal intubation without drugs, end-tidal CO2, and head tilt chin lift. But if you go to the very bottom, you can see my 5 least reported skills within this period. And that are needle decompression, thoracic chest decompression, thoracostomy, PEEP, and surgical airway. And if they're skills that I'm utilizing, I really need to have a significant think about whether I should be practicing them or whether I should be identifying that skill set, or whether that's something that I need to revisit at some point in the future, because it's clearly that I'm not documenting them skills, certainly within my skills app anyway. So it really helps identify some skills that you aren't using within your particular skill set. But as I said, within this app are lots of skills that actually might not be relevant to you. So how do we disable them, or how do we hide them? Well, what we can do within the app, we can go into the settings of the app, into the home page, and we can literally click on settings, and we can hide some of them sections. And that will simply just mean that, for example, if I hide this sections below here, what you will see then only appear are the sections that I've got there, which are patient details, catastrophic hemorrhage, which I'll hide, airway and breathing. So if I'm just going to use it for an airway log, they are just the 3 that I might need viewing. So I'm just going to click on save, and then you can see now that when I go to add a skill set with a date, it will literally just allow me to see them different settings. So I'll just quickly put an incident number in, call type in there, cat 4, nature of patient medical, 52, now endocrine pre-hospital. So what you'll see now is when I click onto the next button, I'll get the airway option, I'll get the breathing option, I'll get the summary, and that is it. So it hides them sections that you don't need, that you don't think are relevant to you. But what we wanted to do was create a skills app that actually was more inclusive and allowed you to be to customize almost, and to add things into the skill set that you specifically wanted just for you, or that you could hide specific skill sets in some of them categories that indeed weren't relevant to you. Excuse me. So just let me try and share my screen, and I'm going to go to the dashboard. So just stand by while I try and find the clinical skills dashboard. Okay, so hopefully this will share my screen now, and we'll find the clinical skills dashboard. So if you just do a Google search for clinical skills log, it should hopefully be up there, and you should be able to find it. Hopefully you can see my website now. Can you see the screen? Just give me a quick yes in the chat.
Yep, we can see the screen.
Ah, fabulous. So at the top of the search here is a few options. You can see there the top 3 results are entrees, clinical skills log, and the clinical skills log dashboard. So you can go to the website, or you can go directly to the dashboard. So we'll go directly to the dashboard, and just by magic, it wants me to log in. So if I press that magic button, it should hopefully log me in. So hopefully you can see that now, and you can see that that pretty much looks like a big web version of whatever I've just done on the mobile app. So log in with the same user details and access, so your same email and your same password. But what this dashboard is going to give you is a lot more functionality and features to completely customize it. And I'm going to go through that with you now. So we click onto overview. Overview is literally this dashboard. So this is your complete overview. It tells you your skill sets the same as it does, and your skills as the app does. It gives you the option to generate reports in the middle, so you can click on the report you want, and then you can select the date to and from. and then you can also select which report you need and then download it. And on this section here is almost a scrollable audit log of everything that you've done recently. So you can see that I've only just recently started logging my skills again here, 6 minutes, 5 hours, 5 hours, 5 hours, 4 months. If I click onto view entries, you can see all of the entries that I have ever made on the clinical skills log. And then you have the ability, if you need to edit, to view them, or you can delete them. So these look like tests on there. So I'll click onto delete on there. And the delete option is completely unrecoverable. So once you click onto delete, it is gone forever and nobody can recover it. So you only get one option to click delete and then it disappears. If you click onto view shifts, you can see there all the shifts that you've started. So these are the 6 hours or the 12 hours or the 1 hour, whatever you've done within that period of time. And that allows you to either delete that shift from the calculator or you can amend it as you need to. When you click onto the settings, this is where the magic occurs. And this is what really makes this clinical skills log stand out from anything else that I've seen out there, because it allows you to completely personalize your individual mobile app that will make recording your clinical skills super simple. So I'm going to need some audience participation there. So Ashley Robinson, you've just put in there, this will appeal to so many medical students. It will save them lots of headache and time. Amazing. Ashley, you can see my screen. I'm going to ask you now to design a new airway procedure, and you're going to call it whatever you want to call it. So you can pick something now, Ashley, put it into the chat, and I will add that to my app and I will show it you live on how I can then customize and generate a report using your complete. So it can be called the Ashley Robinson airway, or it can be called anything you want it to be, but just pop it into the chat and I'll show you how we'll add that in a second. So every time you submit a clinical skill or a clinical log, you'll get a summary at the end of the shift. So at the end of your 6 hour or your 12 hour shift, you'll get an email summary. You can toggle this option there. Ashley's airway log, I like it. We'll go for that. So you can toggle this option and that will stop you getting the shift summary at the end. So if you don't want too many email summaries, you can toggle that off and it will turn off your emails. Every time you submit a skill, you get a pat on the back email. And if you don't want that, again, you can turn that off and that will equal it, not send you one. But you'll tend to find that the summary at the end of your shift is really good. It'll tell you how many jobs you've done ultimately, and it'll also give you time to reflect upon that, which is where it crosses over into CPDme. When you click into these different options here, these are the options that are disabled in the app. You can see I've turned them off. But when you select the little arrow at the side, what happens here is you can go in and you can customize. So I'm going to click into airway and we're going to go into airway type and we're going to see all the different airways down there that are selectable. So if some of them aren't relevant to me, like these here, I'll just tick them off because I don't want them, or I don't want them to appear on my options, but I want to appear in my options, this amazing new device which Ashley has developed called the Ashley, I can't spell and talk. Ashley Airway. We'll call it the Ashley Airway device. And we're going to add that as a custom option. All right. So if you've got a specific piece of kit that is not on here or is not available, you can add that specifically within your custom options. And that will then, as long as you click on save, appear under your airway type, which you can then select that you've used as part of a patient group. If you want to have a look at wound care, for example, and there is some skills within wound care that actually are not compatible or suitable to what you do or what you use, you can click on the little option there, click onto type, and then you can literally select the ones that aren't relevant to you. So if you can't suture and you can't use glue, you could get rid of those and turn these other bits off. So the only two skills you have on there are skin staple and use steri strips. And we'll put on there, we'll put Ashley's staple gun, which sounds like a vicious device, doesn't it? I'm hoping it comes with a shot of analgesia. Anyway, if I click on to save changes in there, you'll see that in my wound care, then I should have skin staple, I should have steri strips, and I should have Ashley staple gun. Click on to save changes. And then all I need to do literally is just to restart my app. And then once I restart my app, which I'll do now, and I'll try to share it on screen with you. So just stand by with me while I share this on screen. So hopefully you can see my app again on screen now. Just give us a quick thumbs up if you can see my app. Yes, fabulous. So Daryl's put, Medtree aren't selling your staple gun yet, but maybe we should propose it to them, who knows. So I'm now going to go back to add skill set with date. I'm going to put in there today's date. I'm going to put in there a pretend incident number. I'm going to put in there a call type. I'm going to put in there nature of patient, and then age 23, and I'm going to click onto next, and I'm going to click into the airway log. And then you can see there that Ashley's airway device has appeared as one of my selectable options. And there aren't many mobile apps out there that allow you via a dashboard to completely customize your mobile app without the ability for a update. So you can completely customize the ability to document and put things or skill sets within this app that are completely unique to you. I click onto next, click another couple options, breathing, and then I click onto wound care, and lo and behold, the Ashley staple gun is there that comes with a shot of lidocaine, hopefully. Then click onto next, and then I can submit that skill set, and that's pretty much done. And then when I click back onto share, and I click onto the shared screen option, hopefully I'll get my skills dashboard back up now. So hopefully you can see my dashboard, but you'll see if I go back to the top of my dashboard onto the view entries, that you can see that the top entry there now is the one that I've just documented. Didn't put a gender in there, and I can view that specific entry, and I can see that that's what I've documented via the app. So it makes it super simple to completely customize the app and completely customize it to your skill set and hide things that are not relevant to what your skill set allows. And that is really simple and easy to do. It takes about 5-10 minutes to get the app set up via your dashboard, but once you go over to your app, it's completely customizable. And as your skills develop, you can then unlock skills or add skills into there that actually will be really useful to you moving forward. So I will come to questions and answers. I'm just going to quickly whiz through the rest of this presentation, but very much aware of time. So Andrew's top tips. Digitalize your airway log and create a future-proof airway log that evolves as you do. I had an amazing little airway logbook, but unfortunately it became a victim of the tumble dryer because I forgot to take it out of my jacket pocket, put it into the tumble dryer, it got wet, and then didn't last very long. And so digitalize your airway log. If you only use this app for one thing only, and you are a pre-hospital practitioner who has to record their airway, then customize that log and use it for your airway. It really makes it simple. And there is people out there who say, well, what happens if you haven't got a signal? Well, you very rarely don't have a signal at work, and most people have digital access like JR Calc and other things out there that you will use on your app at the time. Tip number 4 is revisit your skills you don't use often. It's great to identify your skill decay before your patient does. Back to the initial research, this skill app was devised to look at skills that you don't use very often. Don't let that skill catch you out. So often pull a report off there and look at some of the skills that aren't within your skill set or are within your skill set that you're not very confident at. Backdate your missed skills. So when you go to add a skill set by date, you can backdate that as far and as long as you need to, because if you're anything like me, you'll forget that you managed an airway or you managed a particular skill set, but you can backdate that very easily by simply just going onto the app or onto the dashboard and adding a skill set with a date and time. It's simple. Documenting simulation is easy. I've just showed you how to customize your dashboard. Add simulations into there, add simulated airway, add simulated eye gels, add simulated wound care if you need to, but add skills to include word simulation, and that will help support your log. And when you pull your report off, then you can differentiate between simulated skills and live patient skills, and that makes it really, really useful for students out there. We already have UK and universities in Ireland using the skills log for their students, but it really does make it super simple to record your documented simulated skills. And then tip number 1 is if you have got a CPDme account, you can link the clinical skills log to CPDme and it will produce a succinct report with your PDF integrated. So you can integrate your infographic or your report along with your CPD. And we've already had some amazing feedback from people who've had appraisals with all that information collated and integrated into one single skills log. So what's next? And this is where we really need your help. And I'm so grateful for all the people who come and joined us tonight. And I'm hoping from you, girls and guys, we can put together an innovation team and make this app even better for the future, because we are just about to invest in some new technology, some faster servers, some more implemented features. So send us a message and let us know what you want in it. Either send us a message via the chat or send us a message via whichever means you want. You can go onto the Clinical Skills Log app and send us a message, or you can go over to CPDme. But it'd be really useful if you're interested to come on board as part of our innovation panel, and we'll certainly reward you for your time and effort. But what we're looking for is to integrate the clinical skills log infographics, things like cardiac, medical, musculoskeletal, soft tissue injuries, hospital versus home. We're also looking at integrating in there some simulational or situational leadership reports that you can pull off. We're also hoping to put in there some unique webinars around clinical skills that are just for the people who use the clinical skills log. And so there's probably lots of functionality and features out there that you can think of that I haven't done already that will be really useful for you. So if you're interested in joining the innovations panel and revolutionizing and shaping what this clinical skills log looks like for the future, then please do send us a message either via the Twitter at clinical log or via my email address, or just log onto the app or download it, and then please let us know that you're interested, or give us some great tips and ideas, and that will help us signpost what you want for the future. And we're hoping to have this new app up and running in the next couple of months, so the sooner the better, really.